Welcome, everyone. We're going to begin this session. I think you know my name's Dave Kleinfelter, so we can dispense with that. But I do want to introduce my colleague and partner in this project, Carol Aslanian. A little bit of background about Carol. She's the Senior Vice President of Aslanian Market Research, which is a unit of a bigger organization called Education Dynamics. For 20 years, Carol ran the Office of Adult Learning Services at the College Board. So she's really become an expert, a national authority on the characteristics and learning patterns of adults. And that's mostly who we're serving in our online programs. Hey, hang on a second, you folks, you don't have to stand up. There's seats here and a couple. Just take a minute and work your way in. It's no problem. You won't interrupt us. So Carol knows a lot about adult learners. She's done over 200 research projects for colleges, universities, different agencies on market research and how to find these students, how to communicate with them, how to attract them to online programs. She's served on a number of boards for organizations like the American Marketing Association. She's got degrees from Cornell and Harvard, so she's a pretty smart lady. And Carol's going to tell you how we did this study, then we're going to split up the presentation. I'll take the first half about kind of what these students are looking for in programs, and she'll take the second half on how you go find these students and how you communicate with them. So Carol, tell them how we did it.
Okay, will do. Nice to be here with you. Great meeting. I'm learning a lot myself. We at Aslanian Market Research have done dozens and dozens of studies for colleges who want to expand market share. Classroom-based hybrids and so forth. But Dave called one day and he said, well, let's talk about the profile of online learners nationwide. And I said, okay, let's see what we can do for you. I have this great interview agency in Denver, Colorado that I've worked with for 20 years. In the days when we used to do telephone interviewing, remember? Well, now they've got this huge panel, 2 to 3 million people in a panel. And the panel is made up of well-representative U.S. Census credentials, geography, age, sex, where they report, and so forth. And she can pick them out and select according to demographics and background and geography and so forth. So what we did was estimate 2 to 3 million online learners in the United States, which is about right. Total online. I'm not talking about those young kids who are taking one or more courses as their regular curriculum. We're talking about people who engage fully in online learning. And based on 2 to 3 million online learners, we picked out a representative sample of 1,500 people, which is a 95% confidence level and all the other statistics that you'd want to know that makes this pretty good. The target, you could not become a respondent in this study unless you are 18 years of age and older, and in the recent 2 years or currently have taken and participated in a fully online program. It could be a certificate, a license, a diploma, or a degree. So we weren't taking course takers. We decided that at the very beginning. And you had to be 18 or over. We didn't care what age it led to. And we could take future people only if they had firm plans in the next 12 months. By firm plans, we said, name the college, name the credential, name the topic. And about a third of our respondents were future, which is good because you all say to us, well, if you talk to the past, then what do the future people want? So we had a third future firmly and 2/3 past. That was it.
Yeah, so that's our sample size. We sat down then and organized the series, or decided on which questions we wanted to ask. And I had you folks in mind. I'm trying to think, what kind of information would our school leaders like to know about these students? And that would maybe help you make program decisions and marketing decisions and so forth. So I'm going to summarize some of the key findings here. We don't have time to go through everything today. We are doing a webinar, Carol and I, on July 26th. It's a Thursday afternoon at 2 o'clock Eastern. And at that time, a printed copy or an electronic copy of the report will be available, so you can download it and go read it, and think about these ideas on your own. But we're going to highlight today. So let's get started here. One of the first things we asked these students, we wanted to know, is there a difference in these students and the kind of institution they're planning to go to or they have attended? If it's a public university or college, or a community college, a for-profit, or a private. And this is the breakdown that we came up with. So 2/3 of these students are going to a nonprofit institution. And it's still the biggest, you hear a lot about the University of Phoenix being the biggest, and it is the biggest. It's far and away the largest institution, single institution in the respondent group. And in places like DeVry and so forth. But there's obviously more students going to publics and independent colleges than there are those for-profits that make the headlines all the time. One of the things I think is significant about this slide is that the for-profit institutions enroll about 12% of all the college students in America today. But in our sample, 35% of the people going online. So they've clearly been a leader in online program. And what's the message for you folks? There's an opportunity here. You know, if you do online programs, there's people out there that want them. They're way overrepresented in this particular segment. So it means it's good news that the people are taking online programs, and if you deliver them, they should be more like 12% if the other institutions were doing equal numbers of programs in the online format. Yeah. So it is the big gorilla. You might have picked up on what Jonathan Grayer said in that session earlier too, that the for-profits are hampered because of this 90-10 rule. They have to keep their price at a certain level. So we see more and more as the independent colleges get into this space and start offering programs, you can compete very favorably with the for-profits because you can undercut them on price because you don't have to worry about the 90-10 rule. And we'll see a little bit later that reputation is important too, but we'll get to that. So here's a couple points I pulled out that were breakdowns within these types of institutions. So the blue bars are the privates, the white are the publics, and the yellow are the for-profits. And I don't know if I have an arrow on this thing or not. No, I don't. Better touch that one again, Heather. If you look at the breakdown by ethnicity, this is for graduate programs now, and many of our institutions do master's degrees. There's an overrepresentation of African American and Hispanic minority students in the for-profit sector. And again, I think that this data says there's an opportunity here for the independent colleges who have the least number of Hispanic students by a long ways, second place on the African Americans, to think about delivering programs to those that would be appealing and that would be friendly, minority student friendly kinds of programs. And again, we'll talk about the catchment area 100 miles or 200 miles around your school. There may not be any Hispanic students, but that's pretty doubtful the way that our demographics in the country are changing. But thinking about what are the for-profits doing that are appealing to those minority students? Why are they being attracted to there in kind of outsized numbers versus the publics and the independents? So I think there's an opportunity for you as you think through what you do and how you do it. By the way, questions are welcome and anytime. Comments, you want to make it. And we're a pretty small room. I think you don't have to climb out to the mic. If you want to just raise your hand and fire away, we'll be happy to do that. So another key question, seems pretty simple, is what degree are you looking for? This is everybody, grad students, undergrad students. But I was surprised by this. Carol's seen more of this data than I have, at the number of people that want licensure and certificate or diploma programs. That's a big number when you think about it. And look at the breakdown then between the different areas. Again, the for-profits are leading the way in these certificate programs. My guess is that's not because students prefer to get certificates from the for-profits, but it's because the for-profits offer them. They have a lot of certificate programs. My former job was chief academic officer at Walden University, and Walden would add a dozen new degree programs a year. They weren't always new degrees, but oftentimes they were certificates or pieces of degrees, and we call it a new program. So you take a bachelor's degree in business, and you take 4 courses, and it becomes a certificate in human resource management, another certificate in marketing. So maybe a person with an associate's degree just wants to come try those 4 courses. They got a new job. They want to fit in for that. And then you try to recruit them back again to finish the degree with you. You can do the same thing at the master's level. So we tried to layer this up, in smaller chunks instead of just getting the whole degree and then a master's degree, maybe on for a doctorate degree at that institution. Split it up so you certificates in between each one of those levels, and sometimes a person with a bachelor's degree will come back for additional bachelor's level work just because they need that particular credential. So I think there's a huge opportunity here. Carol.
We call them stackable certificates.
Mm-hmm.
You get the idea? And I think that's going to be a very popular product line in the near future, particularly what Dave said earlier, with the increase in minority populations in American higher education. A third will be Hispanic by 2025 or something like that. Then they're going to roll into the adult market, which is dominating the online market. And the idea of short-term compressed modules of instruction that you can add up to a degree if you want to is a very, very attractive offer.
So take away on the kind of degree that, or the certificate, the end result that people are looking for. Here's another interesting opportunity, I think, for many of the people in this room, associates, bachelors, and masters. You see that the public institutions, the white bar on the left-hand side there is up as high as 41% from the public institutions. So they're the leader and the provider of associate degrees. For-profits are clearly in second place, and the independents are way down there in third place. Well, that's public community colleges are filling up that white bar, but there's an opportunity here, I think. When I worked at an institution like yours, it was called Graceland University out in Iowa, we didn't offer any associate's degrees. We didn't think we'd want to do that because it kind of detracted from our image as a baccalaureate institution, But when you think about it, it's pretty easy to add an associate degree. You just take half of your bachelor's degree and you have an associate's degree. And that's a good place. It's kind of like certificates. You can stack that in there. You can do a certificate, an associate's, and then get your bachelor's. So thinking about offering associate's degrees, it's pretty simple to do, pretty easy to do, but it may attract a different set of students or make it easier for students to decide to come because they're obviously having some success in the for-profit sector with those kinds of degrees. Okay, so one of the big questions you folks always ask the market team and your relationship managers here at Learning House is, what degrees should I offer? If you're brand new and you want to start, where should I start? And if you're experienced online program, you want to keep growing and expanding your offerings, what degree do I do next? And this is the top 10 in the graduate, undergraduate fields. It kind of speaks for itself. In the actual survey, I think we had 40-some fields that we were on the list that students could pick. We wanted to get pretty specific so you would have better data. So this is kind of helpful, but I think you really want to see the table where we have all 41 choices there and see how they continue to rank down, because it's obvious that everybody should do business. Fully 30% of the students in the whole population are in that one field, or business administration, accounting, business and finance are all business related fields. On the undergrad side, three of the top 4 choices were in the general discipline of business. But that doesn't mean there may be, in 15th and 19th and 20th place, there may be some good programs that would be really effective for your institution in your geography. So you want to look at the whole list and see what's out there. I love Judy's here. I can use Judy from Midway College. I love the degree. They have a bachelor's degree in mining. Anybody ever heard of a bachelor's degree in mining? A really interesting degree, right? But it works well because it's kind of a niche degree. So there's two strategies to think about here. What does the majority of the people want? And clearly you can see what that shows here. But then are there some unique degrees that we have expertise in? Gentleman from Findlay. Findlay has a wonderful degree in, I call it hazardous materials management, but that's not the official name. Environmental Safety and Occupational Health Manager. And this is a program that would be tough to do online, maybe portions of it, but it's a unique degree, and they get 80 good students every year coming into that program just for that degree. They kind of have it locked up. So there's two ways to think about strategy in terms of programs that you offer. Yeah, Carol, go ahead.
Education. Big surprise, because education has always been high in our ground and hybrid and online programs in total, but it doesn't show up in the top 10 for undergraduate because we know why, what's happening in the States. And at the graduate level, so many regulations are changing in education, nobody knows the return, what is the best thing. The other topic, boutique topics that Dave just mentioned, they're not to be underestimated. These are your bread and butter accounts. This is where you're going to make the dough to pay for everybody else. But if you have a special expertise in some area, like we work at the University of Vermont in a sustainability online certificate program, it is perfect. Vermont is known for it. They can go throughout the region, and we showed that they can go nationwide. So if you have expertise and reputation in specific topics, you should go for that as well as the and online lets you get the momentum and volume you need to make it work.
This was another question I was interested in. I mentioned this in one of the sessions I did yesterday. We asked them what were the least positive and the most positive features of online education. And they had to pick in this, so those total to 100. They couldn't pick all of these and kind of rank them. You had to pick your most concern. So obviously the most important one with 37% was lack of direct contact interaction with students. That's something to think about if you're offering online programs. Is there a way that you can create more contact between students? Do you do group work in your online classes, for example? Do you have other kinds of activities where there's a session next door about social media marketing? Maybe you can think about some ways to use social media to connect students in your classes to overcome that concern. To me, the second one is the most important and most interesting because of my academic background. Inconsistent, poor contact and communication with instructors. That's something you can control. And we did a session yesterday about the new rubric that we've created here at Learning House. Other schools have examples of it, where you assess the level of interaction of your faculty in the classrooms. It's an observation tool. Like you do an observation of a live classroom, you can do an observation of an online class and assess that instructor. What kind of questioning are they doing? How often are they in the classroom? What kind of interaction do they have with the student? Clearly, my background tells me that if a faculty member is highly engaged in a supportive, nurturing way and asking probing, penetrating questions, student retention goes up, student satisfaction goes up, student achievement goes up. You can control that. You set standards for your faculty, you train them, you teach them, you educate them, and then you check on them to make sure people are following through, and you can address one of these key issues here. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Good point, yeah. Or maybe in your marketing materials, you talk about the level of contact and interaction you have in your classes, how you build that in. This is another one I like a lot. We could spend a lot of time on this slide. And there's about 15 more choices that go down the bottom here. I cut this off at 50% and above. So 50% of the people said this was important or very important in them selecting the university they did to go online, to go to school to. So we've all talked about reputation, that's important. And the second item is tuition and fees. How much is it going to cost me? So price and brand are pretty important there. The third one is really kind of a re-emphasis of brand, I think, recognized in your field of study as high quality. We hope to do this survey on an annual basis, and next year I would like to drill down on that topic. What do you mean by reputation? You know, I don't think they're talking about Stanford and Harvard. It's a different kind of reputation. So we may be able to help you figure out what it is that they're actually looking for there. But majors or concentrations related to occupations with large numbers of job openings. We were doing a potential project with a potential partner, and we were looking at what programs would you offer, and we were looking at Department of Labor data that said which jobs are going to have the most vacancies, which occupations in the next 10 years. The Department of Labor publishes these reports every year. The 30 highest jobs in terms of a number of vacancies. So there's going to be lots of job openings. And 2 or 3 of the areas I was focusing in on are customer service, administrative assistants, really millions of jobs in those areas, sales, not marketing, but sales. So I think there's an opportunity for people that have a business degree to do concentrations in some of these areas that are really high in terms of job openings and job vacancies. And you can say, if you get this concentration in our business degree, chances are there's going to be a lot of job openings for you. It's an interesting way to think about that, and you can look at those reports from the Department of Labor. Career placement obviously comes in there pretty high because this is all about getting careers and going to school. Carol's going to talk more about why they come, and she'll emphasize that point. Again, I'm not sure what they mean by career placement. We just put the phrase out there. Is this resume writing? Is it actual job vacancies? What is it? And again, this is an area we'd like to drill down on. But if you're doing an online program and your career placement office isn't doing online services, it's something to think about adding that you would want to promote for your students because it's important for these folks. Simplicity of admissions, scholarship opportunities. The third one from the bottom is one that's kind of interesting. No set class meeting times. And we have some institutions that we work with that require synchronous activities. The faculty are concerned that fully online can be, not real good education, so they require some kind of synchronous activity. At Kaplan, we did this. We had a required seminar, 1 hour every week, where the students would come to class with the faculty member, do an Adobe Connect session. And these students don't want that. At least a lot of them say that's important that they don't do that. So I wouldn't require that. I'd offer it as an option if I was doing it, or I'd be careful on how I did that. Positive action. I like the next one at the bottom too. Faculty that teach part-time and are practitioners. These folks like adjuncts. They want people that have real-world experience. So it's something to think about. We had a discussion with Jonathan earlier about adjuncts. I didn't talk too much about the transfer credit because that was one of the higher choices there. They want an institution that accepts transfer credit. It was pretty high, but this data kind of shows that in spades. Only 18% of these students had 0 credit. A lot of them had over 30 credits to transfer in. These people come with a lot of credits. They've tried a couple times. They've done something here. They've dropped out, whatever, but you need to be transfer-friendly credit for them to pick your institution. I want to talk about this a little bit because that doesn't just mean you say that we'll take transfer credit. The real key to transfer credit is how you build your degree plans and the structure of your degrees and the number of prerequisites you have in them. If you don't have a lot of electives, open electives in general, electives within the major and electives within Gen Ed, you are not transfer credit friendly because there's no place for them to put those credits and they're going to have to take extra courses to fill it up. I did a webinar a couple weeks ago. I do a series of these every other week. It's archived. I'm going to do this whole process about how you build a degree plan that leaves room for students to come in and how you can also be efficient in how you schedule your classes. But you think of a typical 120 credits, that's 40 courses. I don't think more than 20 of those courses should be prescribed required courses. And the rest of them should be electives of some type or one of those 3 buckets to really accommodate a student to bring 60 credits and fit them in. So the real work is in the curriculum planning and design. It's not in policy that says we'll accept transfer credit. Do you take credit by examination through the ACE program? Do you take experiential credit? And do you have a way for a student to put a portfolio together to get experiential credit? If you don't, there's a great service now that CALE, the Council for Adult and Experiential Education, Council for Adult and Experiential Learning, offers where they'll do the portfolio review for you. You send them the student, they can put the portfolio together, they'll tell you it's worth 8 credits. So if you're not doing that, you ought to get there. I don't want to be real blunt, but you just ought to do the program and accept those kinds of credits and make sure your degree plans have room for them. And if you can tell these students then, if for every 100 students we take 99% of their transfer credits. That's huge for these students. They don't spend more time and more money getting extra credits. Okay, I've got one more here. We hand it over to Carol. One of the other questions we asked was length of the term. And it's interesting that most of them don't want traditional semesters. We talk with all of our clients about this a lot. We recommend 8 weeks as kind of a half of a semester. They also want those to run nonstop. You don't take 2 months off in the summer. You do 8 weeks, take a week off, maybe another 8-week term. If you do 8-week terms, you can get 6 in a year. It works out really nicely. 6 times 8, 48 weeks of instruction, 4 weeks of downtime in between, and they can go continuously then. The one that's interesting for me up here is 12. 12 weeks works out mathematically very nice as well. 4 12-week terms would give you 48 weeks. And I had some experience. I ran one of the Kaplan campuses in Portland, Maine at one time. They were on this 8-week schedule, and their students would take 2 or 3 classes every term was expected. They were full-time students for full-time financial aid. And it was tough. It was tough to get the work in, especially if you were a working adult. 12 weeks could be very interesting because you could take 2 courses in 12 weeks, probably manage the time load. So it'd be interesting to see some places that try that. But 8 weeks is pretty common, and continuous is important. Yeah, go ahead.
Why do you think that 6 to 8 weeks wins over 5 or 2 weeks? Students are interested in speed and getting finished, but college has decided that they can do it in 5 weeks. Why would students not like that?
My guess is, I'm interpreting here, that that's too much work too fast. If you get sick, or if you have to take a trip for your business for 2 or 3 days, man, you're so far behind. That happens even in the 8-week terms. It goes pretty darn fast. Professors will say things like math is really hard to get in 8 weeks, and composition, because there's just not enough time to write a paper, edit it, rewrite it. You know, I was places where I've worked. We experimented with courses that would be either 8 or 16. You could bounce them back and forth and do different combinations. But my guess is it's that it's just too fast. You know, with the new requirements from the Department of Ed about Carnegie credits, you got to figure out how many hours these people are spending if your courses are credit worthy. And if you build them up so they're really credit worthy, which is 135 hours for a 3-credit course, 8 weeks is pretty darn fast. That's like 19 hours a week of study time. And take 2 of those classes, that's a lot of time if you're really kind of going right down the strict letter of the law. I'm going to turn it over to Carol now. I'll hand you the clicker here, Carol, and you can talk about how to get in. This is what they're looking for, the kinds of things they want if they come to your institution. She's going to tell you how to talk to them.
Okay, great. I think I got myself all set up here.
Okay.
Before I show this slide, I wanted to remind myself and you of 1980. Probably some of you weren't even born, but that's when I moved over to the College Board, and I started to operate the Office of Adult. Is this too loud? Office of Adult Learning Services, and I said to myself, you know, you can give me the descriptions of adults. They're, you know, so many are female, their ethnicity and stuff, but why do they go back to school when they do? Nobody could answer that question. So we did a major study in 1980 with the help of the Exxon Education Foundation to find out what makes adults select education after years of absence. And the name of the book was Americans in Transition, Life Changes as Reasons for Adult Learning. And there were 2 hypotheses. And those hypotheses, if they're good hypotheses, right, Dave, they last a long time. And the hypotheses went like this. An adult goes back to school when her life is changing in some arena of the life area, be it career, family, leisure, etc. When there are transitions in your life, you seek a vehicle for success to gain the competencies you need in that next stage of life. I'm a household mother. I want to go back to nursing. I'm a clerk. I want to be a manager. We all go through transitions. Some of us make that trip by going back to school. Others of us ask a friend for a job. We go to the unemployment agency. We do other things. But about 5% of Americans as adults will go back to school. That's their vehicle to success. So that's the transition, but that's not the only factor. There's always an event in an adult's life that says, it's time to learn. I've always wanted to be an accountant. I want to go back to nursing. but why in September of 2012? So the trigger event is absolutely necessary to let you fulfill on the competencies you need to make the transition. If your last child does not go off to kindergarten, you may not do it. If that divorce does not come through, you might not do it, and so on and so forth. Well, 30 years later, I'm glad to see the hypothesis holds. And when we talk to these 1,500 people about their motivation, number one, and by the way, back then it was careers, and with trigger events it was careers and family. So here we have a picture of online learners who want to get ahead. So if I was going to do a commercial or a campaign and I was a 2 or 4 year institution, I'd say it's moving on, it's rising, it's climbing, it's going ahead. That's what they see themselves going back to school for. I don't want to stay still. I want to get that better job, that better promotion, and so on and so forth. So when you think of your campaigns have to show growth, have to show movement, have to show I'm not going to be where I am. It's a transition into a new, positive, lucrative career. So that's about what? Half of our respondents. That's a large number to deal with. So don't show them that diploma on your front page waving across a stage or anything like that. Show them moving into a company, moving into a new desk, moving into new companions on the job. That's what they want from you. The change career people are only about 30%, okay? Because half of the undergraduates, about 55% of the undergraduates were working full-time. The 30% were only part-time workers. They wanted to go into that next job. You'll see those demographics later. And so on and so forth. So it's all about careers. 90% of the reasons, that's the transition, 90% of the reasons people are coming back to your online programs is about their jobs. That's no news to you. But these little subtle themes about advancing, rising, moving into, getting better is the essence of a good commercial, a good ad, a good piece of literature. Now the trigger events also come from your life roles. Qualify for a promotion salary increase. There it goes. You know what happened to these people? They didn't get the promotion. They're not getting the salary increases. So what happens? That's the event that says, it's time to learn. I got to go back to get what I don't have, to get that new job and that new raise. The state of the economy. And those are the two that have to do most with the job market. But I think that 33% for the promotion or salary increase works nicely with the motivation of moving ahead to advance. I do want to talk about number 3. I think it's fascinating, reaching a milestone age. It's only about 15%, right? But it's interesting. When she gets to be about 30, she says, I didn't finish that undergraduate degree. I better go back and finish it because everybody's passing me by. When he gets to be about 50, he said, okay, this is my last chance. I'm not going to play golf for 30 years, right? I better get another profession that's in the marketplace, loud and clear where I live, and so on and so forth. But the family-related reasons are less important 30 years later than they were in 1980. It's all about your job. How do they find out about you? Guess what? It's those horrible websites they go to. Right? Have you tried visiting your own website to get information? Not very easy. But that's what they do. That's what 51% go immediately to a specific institution's website. And what's on your home page? Is there a nice big spiel about online learning programs? Or do you hide it under undergraduate admissions? Or continuing education? Or those vague terms that we know inside the institution, but nobody knows outside the institutions. What do we say? Academics. That's a great line at the top of a page, academics. What does that mean to a 29-year-old junior manager? She's thinking of, is that a degree field of study? Is it academic area? What is it? So our websites need transformation. How many feel they've got a good one going? That's what I mean. Okay. Then they go to the internet search engines. So if you're not well optimized, get there fast. There are people who can help you to do that like this. Okay? It's electronic. The website again. If they don't find what they want in 3 clicks, they're gone. Okay? And What they want to know, first and foremost, is what? I'll tell you that shortly. It's a new
So
slide.
let me put a plug in for Learning House here. Okay?
Great, okay.
Bold-faced plug. We help each one of our partners build a website, a landing page for their online
Great.
programs. We make sure it has the right information on there, which Carol will talk about in a little bit. But the key to that is the link from the home page to that landing page for online programs. If you
Right.
bury it under academics or continuing ed or professional studies, like she said, they may never get to that nice page that we helped you build that looks like your brand.
Great, okay. And then it's the lead search the lead gen companies, right? The 28%, which you may buy leads from. Does Learning House buy leads to help the member
We have two
institution?
lead gen sites that we provide,
Okay.
portals that we
All
provide.
right, so that's third in popularity.
access to.
Nothing is as important as your website. So you've got to get to your IT people and to all those faculty who want to write up those descriptions themselves, which are deadly, and you've got to get it in tune with the market. Talk to your own students, find out what they want. Okay, effectiveness, we combine this table to look at both electronic and offline. And guess what? Lucky for you, you're going to be promoting your programs in your region. So, friends and family, folks, no surprise. What would you do if you were thinking of going to Southern New Hampshire University's online program? You'd say to yourself, I want to find out if somebody else that I know went there. I want to talk to a family member. I want to talk to a friend. I want to talk to my employer, whose tuition reimbursement I want to use to pay for this course of study. Will they pay for online education? We just finished a study for NYU with the Fortune 500 in New York about supporting online education. 99% do. 5 years ago, it would have been down to 50 or 60%. So they're very curious about that. They want to know what their employer thinks about you. And those were the two highest. Next is your listings on college search sites. Okay? Direct mail. Everybody says to me, what about direct mail? Direct mail has come back, okay? It has come back. And lucky for you, because you're going to be doing a lot of regional marketing. And so there are ways to find out which households in your region have the characteristics, which we'll show you, of people that are likely to go back to online learning. And you can mail directly to them. Direct mail has not disappeared. And so on and so forth. College fairs you can forget about, and conventions, events, save your money, and so forth. What do they look for on your website? The things you hide. That's a simple answer. How long is it going to take me? But more important, what is it going to cost? I thought this morning's speaker that said, put up $12,000 wasn't such a bad idea. They don't hide it from them. Attract them by stating something that they really want to inquire more about, your fees and tuition. I have, in my 20 or 30 years, I started as a teenager, but in my 20 or 30 years in this business, I'd say tuition and, of course, cost is always important. We know that, but it has risen strongly in the last 3 or 4 years, really making a difference. So if you have a good price, put it out there. If you don't have such a good price, what do they want? Almost as much as a good cost. Saving time, nearby location, testimonials from employers. Put up the other things that you might be able to compromise with your higher than not costs. So they're looking for tuition and fees. 2/3 of them would cite that as number one. And then, of course, what they're going to study, your requirements for admission, and I would say transferability of credits. Credits transferred is money and time. Tell them about your generous, friendly, all-encompassing transfer program, okay? Your transfer policies, your practices.
Yeah,
Let them know the 85% who are bringing credits that they can get somewhere with that. Don't hide that information.
Yeah, if your price is the expensive, $20,000, you can say, yeah, but fully 80% of our students get 30 credits, transfer credits, so the price they pay is only $14,000.
That's right.
A lot of ways you can message that.
Great example. The things we tend to hide are the things we should put up front. Stop showing pictures of your buildings and showing pictures of an employer handing a graduate a new paycheck or something like that. Social networking profiles. Well, can you believe what 83% are on Facebook? These are movers. They're not, well,
another generalization which surprised both Dave and me, they're younger than you think. You know, you could wait to your 30s, maybe 20 years ago, that home-based woman, 35, 36, 37, going back to school. Today, what we have found recently in Baltimore and several other sites, when we usually use our minimum age as 25, not 18, that a third of our respondents are between 25 and 29. Why? Well, you've all done a good job in not graduating 50% of your undergraduates in 6 years. Guess what they become? 50% of undergraduates become adult learners, because she says to herself after she left University of Alabama at age 21,
Yeah.
and she goes, gets a job, and by the time she's 28, what does she say to herself? I can't make it like this. I got to go back. So they're getting younger. So don't show all those gray-haired ladies and older people as adults. In fact, my personal opinion is don't use the word adults. How many people use adults in their marketing? Good. No, stop. The reason is they don't think of themselves as an adult learner. You know, I'm a person who wants to go back to school to get my degree. So all these special units, if you come from the adult and continuing ed division, are a little bit behind the times. Special programs for adults? No way. We're all doing it now. We're all doing it. This is an age-free means of learning, okay? The generalization I make at some of my program areas is age no longer predicts how we learn. Okay, and how often do they go to those sites? Well, look around your offices, you'll find out. 75% daily. So they're now the question whether or not you'll see shortly is whether or not this is good for your marketing messages. That's another point. We looked at some mass media behavior. We've got to get a little bit more finite about this as I'm finishing some of the writing on Monday and Tuesday for the seminar the next week. But anyway, when they read a newspaper, it's online. That's good information. Okay? When they listen to a radio, lucky for you, it's local stations. Wonderful. That's where we want to market. We want to get that regional enrollment. And when they go to a television station, local stations, and cable. Okay? Online behavior. We said to them, how many hours are you online aside from your studies? How much are you online in a given week? And 24% said under 25, but 75% said over 25, and the median is something like 30 to 32. That's a heck of a lot of time. So guess why? Online newspapers and so forth, right? Makes sense. And the top 5 frequently visited websites, social media, but whether they look at social media to learn about colleges is something else. Local regional news, national news, shopping, websites, and entertainment. They're just like all of us. Where have all the men gone? I used to say that. We used to say 20 years ago, women are doing later what men had the opportunity to do earlier. That's no longer true. Most students in undergraduate programs, it's what, 54, 40, where's Doug? 54% of college students are women.
Women.
Yeah, so this is true all around. Now, is this an opportunity? Why? They don't like online learning. Now, in our regular adult studies, it's about 65-35, slightly more female and online. Something to think about. Maybe we could do a separate study or analysis about what draws men to online and what might prevent them from going online, because are they not learning in the same numbers? I find that hard to believe, but remember, they're making a transition, but they may not seek education as the vehicle to success. I've always thought, when you look at the top programs, education, the social sciences, psychology, and so forth, not business, but all the others, health, it's a female-dominated area of work, correct? So that's maybe why they go back, because they can't stay still. Men can make it through business far more without, just talking about it or something or other, social relations or whatever. So that's another reason. It's the topics that draw women, because they can't make it without additional credentials in those other fields that they seem to gravitate toward. Ethnicity, no surprise, 60% Caucasian, 20% African American, which is larger than the national population, which is about 11%, I think. And Asian and Pacific Islander, I don't know, but Hispanics are what now, 18% or so? So we're very much underrepresented. That would be a whole key study to do on bringing Hispanic students back to higher education after they began earlier, because that'll be a huge market. Age, Dave and I keep looking at this, and it's the only piece of data, I'll admit it, that makes me cringe a little. And so I went in, I said, take those future people out. Get me the data without the future. Remember I said a third of them were future? Pattern still held. So then I talked to a couple of my for-profit friends, and their ages are younger than I thought. So it's not all that off track. I think younger people will begin more and more to look to online education so they can marry earlier, raise their families. I mean, not everybody did it like I did. Pack a bag, go to college, stay 4 years on campus, and graduate on time. I mean, that's 18% of college students today. So maybe they're looking at online education or the certificate programs. We should cross-tab certificates by age.
Carol, I've been thinking about this too. You know,
Yeah.
More and more high school students are taking online classes.
Oh,
The
yeah.
3 or 4 states now require that for graduation, but it's getting more and more common. So maybe they're more susceptible when they're under. The question here is under 25. That's a big number for
Huge
that
number.
young a student to be taken in this sample. But maybe more and more as they do online high school classes, they feel comfortable just going to online college and skipping the traditional residential. I also think places like California, where they're shutting down
Good
admissions to their universities because of financial issues, they're just,
Right.
the way they're dealing with the financial crisis is to close the doors to more and more students. You know, well, where are they going to go? The only option is to go online because it will take as many as they can get online, right? So it could be the economy's driving some of those younger people to take online programs as well.
Right. Okay. First in the family to attend college, only a third. I think that's a lot. I would like to compare that to national figures. I think it's probably not too off the mark. So I don't think that's different. Income, I think the median in the middle, income is about it should be about $65,000. Higher than we would have expected. Now we'll break that down by undergraduate and graduate in the final study and so on. But you know, more than $100,000, 20%, can they pay your prices? Sure they could. And when we asked them we also asked them how they paid. Did we put that chart in?
I don't think that's in this
Okay.
deck.
Well, then wait for the webinar.
Yeah.
This is I love this one because this confirms some of our other studies. At the undergraduate level, 23, let's say 25% already have a bachelor's degree. Does that surprise you? No, it shouldn't. That I know is consistent information. They're coming back because they majored in English, history, government, political science, philosophy. They got to come back and get a career. They may be a lot of our certificate people, by the way, looking for short. And when you think about 50% of students not finishing college, that's such a big, wonderful number, unbelievable. That may be a special population to attract. Finish what you began, we'll start you with certificates, add them along the way, stack them to a degree in time. Great, great idea. And at the graduate level, that's no surprise, 35% because we have all those teachers in there too, They're coming back for more courses, more short-term programs, more certificates, and so on and so forth. So I once said to Anne Arundel Community College, which had 900 students with a PhD, only 400 were teaching. That means 500 PhD were enrolled in the college. So I said, one of their commercials could have been, now that you have a degree, come back to Anne Arundel Community College. We can give you what it takes to make it. So that's an interesting factor because that could be a separate campaign for you all. You need more to make it in this economy. How did they pay?
Yeah, here it is.
This is a 100% question, okay? Student loans and other financial aid only, 31%. But I want you to look at number 2, personal funds only. That's not surprising when you saw the $100,000 figure, right? We don't think of these people as
Full pay.
Full pay. But, that's a good number, 30% paying their own way. Personal funds and student loans and other financial aid, 21%. Then another one, personal funds and employer tuition, you can add that 8% to the personal. That's 36 because that's their own money or it's their employer's money. So 36% need no help. Do you find that out early enough in your conversations and your follow-up and your tracking? It'd be very interesting to find out where they are on that economic ladder so that you can offer something that would fit. Employment status. Now, this is combined. It'd be better if it was undergraduate, graduate, but employed full-time, I want to say only 60%. Guess what? They got time. Part-time, 20%. Now, the people that aren't employed but looking, okay, we'll put them in the employment arena, but not employed and not looking and retired is 8%. I'd love to do a study with Learning House someday on people over 55. I think it'd be fascinating to find out what they're going to do with all that time ahead of them and the resources to pay for further education. That's a great, huge market. It's the growing market in terms of numbers and so on and so forth. So,
Carol, one
yes.
point here, comment. Earlier I was speaking about the length of terms in the academic calendar. And I said, if you do those 8-week terms, it's hard to get 2 courses in a term and if you have a job. But if a lot of students in your program are only part-time employed, they may want the option of a more accelerated program where they could take 2 or 3 courses per term. Most of your students, I think, are going to only take 1, but that may be something you pay attention to in that you offer kind of both options, a fast track and a slower track, depending on what their work situation is.
We also talked last night about internships. For these people that are looking for work or partly in work and want to change their careers, wouldn't it be nice if you could help them get a leg up by area-wide, regional-wide connections with employers and internships? I think the connections with employers is extremely important. You want to say that your biggest employers in the region support you, that they give their tuition reimbursement to you, that they, you'll have testimonials because these students want that connection. That's it for today, right? But now we need questions from you.
Yeah, you go to the website and you can get the deck from there. And again, in a couple of weeks, the full report will be downloadable, so you can get all the data, not just this set of slides, or you can read it instead of hearing us. But this session is being taped too, so it'll be available after the conference. And the webinar that we're going to do, where we'll go through a lot of this same material, maybe some, if we have more time for a few other slides, July 25th. Yeah, James. I'm not sure I'm understanding your question. So we have the breakdown by public, private, and for-profit. You're talking about the private institutions, basically. Yeah. So I showed you a couple slides where I think there's a difference in kind of programs offered that were almost all focused on bachelor's degrees or master's degrees, where there's other program offerings. There's the ethnicity breakdown, where focusing more on Caucasian students than a lot of minorities that are going to other places for their degrees. Those were 2 of the ones that jumped out to me.
But in regard to Ithaca College, what were you asking?
Utica.
I mean, Utica College. Oh, I know Utica College. No, no, no. I know it quite well. I'm from Syracuse, so I know Utica.
Yeah, did that
You're
answer your
part of
question?
Syracuse University, though, aren't you? Okay. All right.
I just more from as researchers at a study, anything just jumped out in general. Just like, wow, never expected that.
Yeah.
We didn't
The
get very
I think
many of that
age
at
will be
all.
it.
You know,
Yeah.
mostly these data don't change that much. There is another issue though. When you look at the breakdown by institution by degrees, the private sector offers a lot more master's degrees than undergraduate degrees, which speaks to your issue. A lot of you folks, when you start your online programs, you avoid the undergraduate because you want to avoid the traditional 19th century faculty and the governance system and all that goes with that. So it's safer and easier to start with the graduate programs for the adults that are offered already in the evenings or off campus somewhere. And as Casey Green said yesterday, you build those silos then where online is kind of for this set of programs, but it's not really for on campus. And I think if you can find ways to break that, the faster you can break those barriers down and get into undergraduate degrees and associate degrees, the bigger you're going to get.
You know what I would say? That they're more like average students. It's just the format that's different. I don't think they are, as individuals, are really different. They just want this format for their lifestyle. So that's a really positive factor. We're not dealing with some strange body of people that we have to cater to in different ways. This is all the same stuff. It's all the same messages, except one thing, the format of instruction.
I was talking with somebody after the session this morning too about this. I think you're going to see more and more campus-based residential students taking online classes. If you would offer those classes right now, the universities that have done that, the students stay in the dorm and go to class because they'd rather not walk across campus or they like the format. We recommend that for our partners that you do summer gen ed courses, so when they go home in the summer, the traditional students can take courses. We have a nice strategy that some schools are pursuing where they find alumni who didn't finish, and you can offer those same courses to them, and they can finish their degree, and you can find them, and it's a wonderful service. You're going to see students athletes, you play basketball or baseball, man, you're on the road a lot and away from campus. If you could do online classes for those students, it would be much better. Study abroad programs. We have another institution that's doing a 3-year degree and encouraging their students to take summer gen eds, but take a full load when you're home in the summer and finish in 3 years.
That's a great
There's lots
idea.
of options to do online classes for your traditional students.
Absolutely.
And the demographics show that under 25, there's a lot of students out there doing these programs now. So I think you're going to see that distinction go away pretty fast. My recommendation is push blended learning as hard as you can and train your faculty on campus, get them comfortable, like Casey Green said, feeling safe and comfortable, teaching with an LMS, and then they'll start doing fully online classes and away you go.
Another implication is, since we have so many traditional undergraduates taking online courses, the graduate market may be heavily influenced online because of their earlier experience.
Yeah.
Now, they have tried it. They like it. They want it. When they go to graduate school, it might be an easier sell.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Good. I mean, what do we want to call them? That's what everybody asks. You know, I don't think we need a name. Yes, we have a name called international students. That's clear. And then we have traditional students. That's not so clear anymore because it's half and half. I would say the way you describe your institution is what you offer. Give me the institution. Yours. Okay. Okay. We're the University of Michigan. Well, that's a bad one. Okay. We're the University of Michigan. We have day full-time and part-time programs. We have evening programs. We have weekend programs. We have online programs. What do you want? In other words, the individual is selecting what they want. Look at the age range here. There's no such thing as adult versus traditional anymore. If you look at any of your day programs, any of you, 20 to 30% of your day students are over the age of 25 in most of the institutions I visit. You can't relate the two. I was working with an institution the other day that wants more adult students, so they want to do evening accelerated programs, evening this, evening that. I said, look at your day enrollment. It's 22% adult. Don't label evening. We used to say adult school was night school. No more. They're there 24 hours, 24/7. So the word loses its meaning. The only reason we have it is because the day faculty want to separate themselves from those people. Meanwhile, 1 out of 4 students they have is that person. So it makes no sense to label. Phoenix never uses the word adult. None of your for-profits ever use the word adult. Did you ever think about that?
Yeah.
It's not necessary. That it's a historical carryover because we had to have those separate divisions, those little white houses down the street that held those home-based women coming back. And it's no longer like that. What they're coming to the University of Nebraska for, what they're coming to Alvernia for, is a day, evening, weekend, online, hybrid program and a topic they want to study. That's all.
Your school,
It's a have it your way generation. Absolutely.
This is a kind of facetious response, but Mike Offerman was the former president of Capella, wrote a blog, and it was titled The Other 85%. And that's what he was talking about, because about 15% are traditional type students. He's talking about the other 85%. So, good point. Hey, time's up. Thank you very much for your attentiveness. Enjoyed having you with us.